Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be doing an update of my CD collection. I did one a few months back, but since then my collection has grown quite a lot, so yeah, I just wanted to do another. So I'm going to do this in two parts. I'm going to do this shelf first, and I've got another rack as well that isn't quite so full as this one. So I'll start with this one. So I've got Queen. These are all my Queen CDs, the first album, and these are all amazing. I ranked all these recently, so if you want to watch that, please do. Sheer Heart Attack, Night at the Opera, Day at the Races, News of the World, Jazz, The Game, the Flash Gordon soundtrack, Hot Space, very underrated album in my opinion, The Works, A Kind of Magic, Live Magic, great live album, The Miracle, Innuendo, Made in Heaven, the very last album, and this is the Platinum Collection. This is a 3 CD set. I'll just show you it here. So it's got a cardboard slipcase there, and then it's got all 3 volumes of greatest hits. So yeah, I got this because there's some songs on here that were not on the studio albums, so that's pretty cool to have. Right, so that's Queen now. Now we're on to the Rolling Stones. This is the singles collection, London Years, 3 CDs in there. So that has all of their singles on it, including a lot of the ones that weren't on the studio albums. And we've got Hot Rocks, 1964, 1971. And then more Hot Rocks, Big Hits and Phased Cookies. 12 by 5. Rolling Stones Now. Out of Our Heads, one of my favourite albums of the early Rolling Stones. December's Children and Everybody's. Aftermath. Between the Buttons, very underrated album. I love that one. I love all of them really. Flowers, another compilation of some rarities and singles as well, B-sides. Exile on Main Street, amazing album. Goat's Head Soup, Black and Blue, Some Girls, Emotional Rescue, Tattoo You, Undercover. Quite like this album, don't particularly like the cover though. Dirty Work, again this is an underrated album, I actually like it. Steel Wheels, Voodoo Lounge, Bridges to Babylon, A Bigger Bang, and then the last Rolling Stones one I have is Blue and Lonesome, their latest album, great album. I'm hoping they'll release another album sometime soon. Apparently they've got some new recordings, so now we're on to the Beatles next. Please Please Me, With the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, Help. I love the Beatles. So yeah, I won't talk too much about these ones. Rubber Soul. Revolver. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Magical Mystery Tour, my favourite Beatles album. The White Album, probably my second favourite. Yellow Submarine. Abbey Road. Let It Be. And I do have Let It Be Naked, which is the alternate mix of the Let It Be album where it has all the orchestration removed. Pretty interesting to listen to. And we're still on the Beatles. We've got Past Masters, 2 CDs. This has all the singles and B-sides and EP tracks that didn't appear on any of the studio albums. So you get that as well, and then you've got everything they ever released. You've got Live at the BBC, Live at the BBC Volume 2, and I've got the Anthology ones as well. Anthology 1, Anthology 2, Anthology 3, so yeah, got some good rarities on there, some demos, studio outtakes, live performances, and I've got the Love soundtrack as well. Yeah, it's pretty good remixes on there, I actually really like that. And I do have one, which I don't really need this because I have all these songs already, but this is how I got into the Beatles, this compilation, not this copy, but this compilation. And so it's I keep this, I have this just for nostalgia purposes. I don't really play this, when I play the Beatles I just play the albums. But yeah, it's a cool compilation. And this one's called Panpipe Play the Beatles. It's basically a Panpipes album where it's all instrumental, no vocals, but they're playing Beatles songs. It's pretty interesting. I think I've only listened to it once, but it's quite nice. And then we've got The Who, onto The Who now. This is Who Hits 50. It's 50th anniversary greatest hits, 2 CDs. And yeah, I got this because this has all of their singles that they released. And yeah, I got it for the singles that were not on the albums, especially on like the 60s albums. They very rarely included the singles on the albums. I mean, there's a couple of exceptions, but usually they didn't. So yeah, that's useful to have. And we've got My Generation, first album. Quick One, fantastic album. Yeah, these are all great. And we've got Who Sell Out, this is the 2-disc deluxe version. So it's got a bonus disc of outtakes. And it's got 2 versions of the album. It's got the stereo and the mono. And I prefer it in mono actually, it just sounds absolutely fantastic in mono. Tommy, it's a classic album. Who's Next, probably my favourite Who album, but that kind of changes. At one point the Who Sell Out was my favourite. And we've got the Quadrophenia. This is the Quadrophenia, the album, and this is the Quadrophenia soundtrack to the film. So yeah, it's quite a good movie actually, I like that. Compilation, Then and Now. This, and yeah, it's got one song on it which I don't think you can get elsewhere, and that's Old Red Wine. It's a B-side. And it's a B-side to Real Good Looking Boy. And yeah, I think this is the only way that you can get that song. And I've got some Pink Floyd, got Relics. And this has a lot of the early singles on it from the Syd Barrett era. And most of these tracks weren't on any of the studio albums, so yeah, this is very handy to have. And I've got Obscured by Clouds. It's not one of my favourite Pink Floyd albums, but it's still a pretty good album. And we've got The Amazing Dark Side of the Moon. Brilliant album. I don't really need to say it's amazing because you probably know it's amazing if you've heard it. And we've got Division Bell. Not one of my favourite Floyd albums. I like some of the tracks on here, like What Do You Want From Me, but it's not their best. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of Floyd, as you can see. I do want to get more Pink Floyd though. I've got some Monkeys. It's got Monkeys original album series. So this has their first 5 studio albums. That's the Monkeys. More of the Monkeys. Headquarters. Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn and Jones. That's my favourite album. And then the Birds, the Bees and the Monkeys. And yeah, all the CDs come with bonus tracks as well. So yeah, that's a pretty cool set to have if you're a Monkeys fan. I've got a couple of Monkeys compilations. The Monkeys 20 Greatest Hits. Definitive Monkeys. This is how I got into the Monkeys actually. So this is another nostalgia piece, just like the Beatles one. And yeah, there's a few singles on these which actually weren't released on the albums anyway. So I've got some David Bowie. This is his first album. This is a deluxe edition. Second disc has some singles on it, B-sides. And this one's called Space Oddity. It's basically a compilation of the early David Bowie singles, like that were released at the same time as his first album that weren't on the album. There's B-sides on here as well, and it's also got the original demo version of Space Oddity, which is actually really good. And this is his second album, which is also just called David Bowie, but it's also known by the title Space Oddity. Man Who Sold the World. Hunky Dory. Brilliant album. Another fantastic album. Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Singles collection. It's 2 CDs. There's a few non-album singles on here, so that kind of makes it worthwhile. Lad Insane. Pretty underrated album, I think. It's quite a famous album, but I think it's underrated compared to Ziggy Stardust. Diamond Dogs, great album. I've got a live album here. This is David live at the Tower, Philadelphia, 1974. Station to Station, one of my favourite David Bowie albums. Love that one. Heroes, fantastic album. The song Heroes is brilliant as well. One of my favourite songs. And yeah, I actually like the full version that appears on the album, not the edited down single version. No, the full version from the album is the better way to hear the song. Got Lodger. Pretty underrated one, I think. This one I think is underrated. Never Let Me Down. A lot of people really don't like this one, but I think it's not the best thing that he ever did, but there's some great tracks on here, like Day In, Day Out, I think is fantastic. Black Tie, White Noise. This is actually not one of my favourites. I actually consider this to be one of his weakest albums. But I do like Jump They Say. That's a great track. But it's got like stuff on here, like his cover of Cream's I Feel Free, which I think is awful, to be honest. And Buddha of Suburbia. I consider this to be another one of his weaker ones, but there's still a few great songs on here. The title track is good. You know, I'm a David Bowie fan, so. Another compilation, Nothing Has Changed. And yeah, I got this because this does have a couple. Well, this was actually the first David Bowie CD I bought. I bought this just after he passed away. Yeah, because I liked David Bowie before he passed away, but I didn't really start to become a huge fan until afterwards. So yeah, this was the first one I bought. And yeah, I'm keeping it because it's actually got a couple of. It's got Sue in a Season of Crime, which was, I think, it was exclusive to this compilation. It was a new song. I think it was released as a single in 2014. That's when this compilation was released. So this was released just a couple of years before he passed. And then I do have Black Star. Fantastic. That's a very sad album to listen to. Sometimes I struggle to listen to this without crying, but it is a masterpiece. A fantastic album for any artist to go out on. I also did buy his latest one, his posthumous released album, Toy, but that's quite a bigger box set, so that doesn't actually fit on here. So I'll show that at the end. I've got some Jimi Hendrix. This one's called Gangster of Love. It's basically a compilation of instrumental blues tracks that he recorded in 1966. So this was before the Jimi Hendrix Experience. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear. And then I do have all 3 albums from the Experience. Got I've Experienced, absolutely amazing album, one of the greatest debut albums of all time. Got Axis Boulder's Love, this is my favourite. Love this album. And Electric Ladyland. And I've got one more Hendrix, one's called Cornerstones, 1967, 1970. It's kind of like a greatest hits, but not strictly greatest hits. Like, half of it is greatest hits, the other half is like rarities and live recordings. Yeah, so it's good to have. And I've got some Cream, got the very best of Cream. This is the first Cream album I got when I was just getting into them. And I kept it because there's a couple of non-album tracks on there, a couple of singles that weren't on the albums, so it kind of makes it handy. And I have all 4 of their studio albums. It's got Fresh Cream, amazing album. Disraeli Gears, considered their best. I think this is probably their best. Wheels of Fire, it's another one of my favourites. I think this is how I got into Cream. My mum had this on CD, but she had the original CD. It wasn't this one. This is the remaster. My mum had the original CD that was in the chunky CD case. And it actually also had a photo of the band on the back as well. And I think it was a still photo from the Anyone for Tennis music video, music promo video. And that song wasn't actually on this album, but it was recorded during the sessions of this album. And then their last album, Goodbye, which is kind of half studio album, half live album. It's like Wheels of Fire as well. Wheels of Fire is a double album. One of them's a studio album, one's a live album. And then I have some Kinks, Ultimate Collection, 2 CD greatest hits. So yeah, good place to start if you want to get into the Kinks. That's how I started, and I do have a couple of the studio albums as well. Got Village Green Preservation Society. Possibly my favourite Kinks album. Fantastic. And I've got Lola vs Power Man and The Money Go Round, Part 1. They never did a Part 2, so I don't know why they called it Part 1. And there's 2 albums in here. It also comes with the soundtrack to Percy, the film Percy in 1971. I've not seen the film, but yeah, the Kinks recorded all the songs for it and the incidental music as well. And I have some Doors. It's got the very best of the Doors. That's a pretty good compilation. And I've got Morrison Hotel, great album. And I've got the last Doors album they did with Jim Morrison before he passed away. This is LA Woman. And next I have some Electric Light Orchestra. So this is the first ELO album. I got this today actually. And yeah, it's a great album. And this is a 5 album set. So yeah, this is Electric Light Orchestra original album classics. So this has On the Third Day, Face the Music, New World Record, Discovery and Time. So you get 5 ELO albums in. I've got this today as well. I was really lucky to find this. And they've all got bonus tracks on them as well. So yeah, I'm almost complete on the ELO. I just need to get ELO 2, second album, and the latest album From Out of Nowhere, and then I'm complete. I've got El Dorado. Some consider this one of their best albums. It's not one of my favourites personally, but it's pretty good, and I do love the track Can't Get It Out of My Head. Got Out of the Blue. This is my personal favourite ELO album. This was the first one I heard, so yeah, I absolutely adore this album. It's a masterpiece. Got Secret Messages, pretty good 80s album. Got Balance of Power. Not actually all that bad, to be honest. I quite like this one. And then we've got the Zoom. Pretty underrated, actually. And then the last one is Jeff Lindsay, Elo Alone in the Universe. It's got the nice 3D cover there. Yeah, pretty good album. And then next we have the Beach Boys. This is the Platinum Collection, 3 CDs of all their greatest hits. So yeah, this is fantastic. This has everything you would ever need of the Beach Boys. Because they did have rather a lot of albums. They had like 30 albums, 29 albums. Some of them were great, but some of the ones towards the end of their career were, you know, some of the later ones were crap. And I do have Pet Sounds, of course. This is a masterpiece of an album. Definitely the best thing they ever did, in my opinion. And this one's called Beach Boys Icon. Just a compilation. This was the first Beach Boys CD that I ever got. Yeah, pretty good if you're just a casual fan, but if you want a Beach Boys compilation, you're better off with this one. It's 3 CDs, you can't go wrong with that. And I've got some Animals. It's called The Complete Animals, 2 CDs. This literally has all of their like recordings from 1964, 1965. So it has every song from their first album, their self-titled debut album, and every song from their second album, Animal Tracks. And it also includes all the singles and like the non-album singles and non-album B-sides that were released around the same time as these albums. So yeah, when it says Complete Animals, it's actually, well, complete recordings from 64 and 65. It doesn't have any of the 66 recordings on it. For those, you have to get Animalisms, which is their third album, and that also does have, I think that CD has bonus tracks on it that has the B-sides. So yeah, I'm looking to get that as well. And this is Eric Burdon and the Animals. It's 2 albums, Winds of Change and Twain Shall Meet. So this is when the lineup changed, and then Eric Burdon was the only member who remained. All the other, but yeah, the rest of the lineup changed, and then they became Eric Burdon and the Animals, rather than just the Animals. And they went quite psychedelic at this point. And yeah, these are actually good albums. Twain Shall Meet is great. It's got Sky Pilot, fantastic song. Yeah, there's a third album called Love Is, which I need to get. So I've only got 2 more to get, and then I'm complete on them. They did do some reunion like albums in the 80s as well, but they have a lot of re-recordings on them. Like they basically re-recorded their old songs. I don't really like it when artists do that. Got some Deep Purple. This is Deep as Purple, the very best of Deep Purple. Pretty good compilation. There are better ones out there, but this is still pretty good. And I've also got Machine Head. So this is the sort of the anniversary edition. It's got 2 CDs. It's got the original CD release, and it's got the remastered edition with bonus tracks as well. So that's pretty cool. And I've got another Deep Purple. This one's Icon, similar to the Beach Boys one. Except this is not really a greatest hit. There's actually, well, it's got some like live tracks on it, and there's also, I think some of these are well known, but there's also some. Yeah, there's also some on here that I've never heard of before. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then we're at the bottom row now. So this is the last row on this shelf. So we've got some Status Quo, the best of. And yeah, this covers the early Status Quo, so this mainly the 60s. And yeah, it's fantastic music on there. And this one is classic Status Quo. This mainly covers the 70s and 80s. Yeah, I like Status Quo. Awesome band. 3 CD box set here. This one's Now and Then. So yeah, 3 CDs. Covers the 70s, 80s, 90s and 2000s as well. So yeah, really, really cool. Definitely a must. Definitely a must have. And this is a 2 album set. This one has 2 of their studio albums. This has Never Too Late, back to back. Pretty cool. They're like 80s albums. And yeah, they're pretty good albums actually. I like them. And then I've got one last Status Quo. This one's called Pictures. So this is a live album. So, and it also has a DVD with it as well, with the concert on it. So that's pretty awesome. And then I have some Simon and Garfunkel. Got greatest hits. So yeah, fantastic songs on there. And I also have Bridge Over Troubled Water, which was their last studio album before they disbanded. And you get some bonus tracks on there as well. Yeah, I like Simon and Garfunkel. And I've got Velvet Underground and Nico. Classic album. Absolutely brilliant. And then I've got The Searchers, The Essential Collection. 2 CDs. This has everything you'd need from The Searchers. Great 60s pop group. Small Faces, love these guys, absolutely fantastic. Ultimate Collection, 2 CDs. You get 50 songs on here, spread across 2 discs, it's amazing. And yeah, this actually covers all 3 of their albums. It has pretty much all the songs from like their first album, most of the songs from their second and third album, so this pretty much has all you'd ever, and it has all of their singles on it as well. It has some of the B-sides as well, so it's pretty much all you'd ever need, really. We've got Elvis, 75, so it's a 3 CD greatest hits of Elvis Presley. So yeah, it's called Elvis 75 because this was released on what would have been his 75th birthday. So yeah, this is all I need, really. It's got, yeah, it's 75 songs on it. This has everything I need from Elvis. You know, I like Elvis a lot. I think he's a talented guy. But yeah, this is all I need, really. Got Very Best of Cat Stevens. This is one of my favourite CDs. Yeah, this is a compilation that I have a lot of fond memories of listening to. And it's actually this exact copy. So yeah, I've had this for a really long time. So yeah, it's pretty worn, as you can see. The disc is still amazing though. The disc is in amazing condition, it still plays. And it has a DVD on it as well, of live performances and music videos. Yeah, I'll hold on to this forever. This is a fantastic compilation. Probably all I need. I mean, I love Cat Stevens. You know, he was an important part of my childhood. You know, I listened to him when I was a kid. I used to love that compilation, but this compilation is pretty much all I really need. This is a cool CD, Robert Johnson, the complete recordings. So 2 CDs, and this has everything that he ever recorded. So yeah, if you're into like classic blues music, I recommend this. This is fantastic. Yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't around for very long. He passed away at the age of 27, I believe. So yeah, this is all he ever recorded in his whole career, but such brilliant songs. The sound quality on here is not great because these songs were recorded in the 1930s. But fantastic though, this is a fantastic set. I think there's a few others as well. I don't know if there's one on BB King, because BB King obviously had a long career, unlike Robert Johnson. There's another guy, Blind Willie Johnson, who was another blues artist from around that time. And there's also one that has all of his recordings on it as well, which I might get. So yeah, this is another one I picked up today. This is Jefferson Airplane, Gold Collection. So 2 CD set. White Rabbit is my favourite song, it's just a classic. So yeah, it's a pretty cool set. And then this one is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the Anthology Through the Years. So 2 CDs, career spanning. It probably has all I need on it, to be honest. I mean, I like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but I like the hits, you know, I like the big songs. And yeah, this is fantastic. So yeah, this takes care of me. This is all I really need. Got some Guns N' Roses, got Appetite for Destruction, absolutely fantastic debut album. It's an album I'd almost give it a 10 out of 10, except I'm kind of tired of hearing Welcome to the Jungle. I've heard that so many times. So if I never heard that song again, I'd be fine with that. But everything else on there is amazing. We've got Use Your Illusion 2. I don't have Use Your Illusion 1 just yet. I do need to get that. But yeah, this is a great double album. But it's a double album that was released separately. And this is a CD single of their cover of Sympathy for the Devil, which was they recorded for Interview with the Vampire. Great movie. I love that film with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. And have Chinese Democracy. Not their best album. I consider this their worst album. Not everything on here is bad. There's still a few gems on here, but I still think it's their worst album though. And this is the CD single of Aerosmith's Don't Want to Miss a Thing, which was from Armageddon. Great film, great song as well. Love that song. I might get some more Aerosmith. I might get Aerosmith's Greatest Hits. And another one I got today, The Very Best of Canned Heat. So yeah, amazing compilation. Some great songs on there. And this is one I got today as well. Been quite lucky today actually. This is the Yardbirds Smokestack Lightning. So it's a 2 CD compilation, 40 tracks. So yeah, mostly studio tracks. You know, like the big hit singles. And I think there's some B-sides on there as well, some album tracks and some live recordings as well. So yeah, this is awesome. So that's it for part 1. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you guys in part 2. Until then, take care.